The CIA and the JFK assassination, unraveling the connections. November 22, 1963. A day burned into the consciousness of America and the world. President John F. Kennedy, a symbol of hope and progress, was cut down by an assassin's bullet in Dallas, Texas. Officially, the Warren Commission closed the case, pinning the blame solely on Lee Harvey Oswald, a lone gunman acting independently. But for decades, one enduring question has haunted historians, citizens, and conspiracy theorists alike. Was there more to the story? Could the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, have been connected to Kennedy's assassination? Today, we'll take a closer conspiratorial dive into the mysterious threads that link the CIA to JFK's assassination. From historical motives to speculative evidence that has raised eyebrows for years, we will piece together the most compelling arguments. By the end, you'll be asking yourself, is the truth hidden right in plain sight? Let's start with the backdrop. JFK stepped into office at a dangerous time. The Cold War had locked the United States in a global chess match with the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, Cuba loomed in the background as a troubling communist outpost just 90 miles from U.S. shores. However, it wasn't just external enemies that Kennedy appeared to be wary of. He was also growing increasingly distrustful of his own intelligence community. A major breaking point came early in his presidency during the infamous Bay of Pigs invasion. Privately, he fumed. Publicly, he admitted he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. The tension between JFK and the CIA spiraled from there. Kennedy's push to rein in the CIA's powers, limit its covert actions, and restructure how intelligence was handled wasn't just unprecedented. It painted a bullseye on his back. Could this volatile relationship have created the perfect motive for the agency or rogue elements within it to eliminate the president? The lone gunman narrative presented by the Warren Commission zeroed in on Lee Harvey Oswald, but many can't shake the eerie connections between Oswald and the intelligence community. Let's piece together his suspicious movements. Oswald spent time in the Soviet Union during a tense period in the Cold War. Upon returning to the United States, he became entangled with pro-Castro and anti-Castro groups. Was this the behavior of a confused drifter or someone acting under orders? More eyebrow-raising still is Oswald's reported trip to Mexico City in 1963, where he allegedly met with a Soviet KGB officer linked to assassinations. But wait, it gets murkier. The CIA was closely monitoring these activities. The question is how closely, and could they have been pulling strings behind the scenes? Then there's the role of murky operatives like David Atlee Phillips, a high-ranking CIA officer, and other players rumored to have had contact with Oswald. While firm evidence of collusion may be elusive, the intricate web of associations raises questions too big to ignore. If we assume for a moment that rogue elements of the CIA could have been involved in the assassination, we have to ask, why? What could drive agents of the state to turn on their own leader? Let's revisit Kennedy's open frustrations with the CIA, his plans to restructure the agency, and his refusal to greenlight certain covert operations likely created deep resentment. Chief among these was Operation Mongoose, a series of plans hatched by the CIA to remove Fidel Castro from power. This clash could have led to a scenario where agency insiders, fueled by Cold War paranoia and their belief that Kennedy's handling of Cuba jeopardized national security, decided to take matters into their own hands. After all, the Cold War wasn't just a battle fought with spies and weapons. It was a battle of ideologies, and loyalty could take on extreme forms. Now let's talk about the evidence, or allegedly the lack of it. Critics of the Warren Commission have long suggested that key pieces of evidence pointing towards CIA involvement were ignored, downplayed, or outright suppressed. For example, why were countless classified documents withheld for decades? Was it truly for reasons of national security, as officials claim? Or was it to prevent damning information from reaching public eyes? Even with recent document releases, many files remain redacted or incomplete, leaving huge gaps in the historical record. And what about eyewitness testimony? Several witnesses came forward to claim they saw or heard things that contradicted the lone gunman narrative, including accounts of multiple shooters. Were these claims simply dismissed or buried? Insider accounts add an even darker tint to the picture. Take E. Howard Hunt, a former CIA agent who, on his deathbed, reportedly confessed to being part of a CIA-led conspiracy to assassinate JFK. While skeptics scoff at the reliability of his claim, the intrigue it sparks is undeniable. The JFK assassination wasn't the first or last time the CIA has been tied to controversial activities. From Operation Northwoods, an unexecuted plan involving false flag attacks to justify war with Cuba, to their involvement in coup d'etats abroad, the agency has proven its willingness to engage in morally ambiguous, highly secretive operations. Lee Harvey Oswald's alleged connections to both Soviet and Cuban actors seem almost too convenient. Is it possible that he was a pawn in a larger operation? One theory suggests that Oswald was set up as a patsy, a scapegoat to throw off investigators and divert attention from the real culprits. These patterns of covert action, disinformation, and manipulation only further muddy the waters. The line between fiction and fact becomes almost indistinguishable. The further you dig into the history of JFK's assassination and the CIA's activities during this era, the more it feels like you've entered a labyrinth with no clear way out. The CIA's connections to shadowy figures, covert operations, and evidence suppression form a web of suspicion that refuses to go away. But let's step back. Does all this prove that the CIA played an active role in Kennedy's assassination? Not necessarily. Some argue these connections are circumstantial or the product of Cold War paranoia, breeding fertile ground for conspiracy theories. Others firmly believe these facts reveal an inconvenient truth that certain powers are desperate to keep hidden. At the very least, the evidence we've explored raises far more questions than it answers. It challenges us to think critically about the official story we've been told and to consider the possibility that history's greatest mysteries may never be solved in tidy, straightforward terms. So, was the CIA involved in JFK's assassination? That's a question only you can decide. We've laid out the evidence, the connections, and the motivations, but the truth, like so much else in this case, remains locked behind layers of secrecy and time. What do you think? Do you see the threads connecting the dots, or do you believe this is simply a conspiracy theorist's daydream? Either way, these questions will continue to stir debates, provoke investigations, and spark curiosity in the generations to come. If you found this exploration fascinating, or if you love questioning the stories we've always been told, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We're diving deep into more mysteries, conspiracies, and the untold stories of history, because the truth is always worth searching for. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to keep questioning everything.